to the Park2Park Podcast, where we compare theme park offerings from coast to coast. It's season 2! Woohoo!
Woohoo!
We don't always see eye to eye, but in the end, we'll try. I'm Alli, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host and sister, CJ. How are you tonight?
I am doing well, Sister Alli. That was really weird. And Sister CJ. So, Sister Alli, I am well. How are you?
I didn't think it was weird. I felt it was re-emphasizing the point that we're sisters as well as podcast co-hosts.
But to clarify, we're not nuns.
We are not nuns.
Sorry, I just thought of nuns. Sister CJ, Sister Alli.
This is a sister act, but we are not nuns.
True.
So thank you all for joining us today. This season, we're going to be talking about the world of Disney parks before 1971, a world that we didn't exist for. But we're going to start by walking right down the middle of Main Street, USA.
Yeah, so just to provide some context for this, we know that Walt Disney World did not exist prior to 1971. However, there are some attractions and things to experience at Walt Disney World that existed at Disneyland before 1971. For example, Pirates of the Caribbean. It opened at Disneyland in 1967, and it also exists at the Magic Kingdom. Haunted Mansion opened at, I'm getting my dates mixed up. No, I'm not. I'm sorry.
This.
Haunted Mansion opened at Disneyland in 1969. It exists at Walt Disney World as well. So any rides that opened at Disneyland prior to Walt Disney World opening in 1971 that also exist at Walt Disney World, we are going to be discussing on this season.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about them in their present states, not as they were when they first opened. We know that there have been several changes over the last 50 or so years to several of these rides. So we're just going to be talking about the ones that are, for the most part, ones that are open now and as they are now.
Yep, exactly. And like Alli said, we're starting with Main Street USA, which we know is not a ride. It's not an attraction, but it's such a big part of the Magic Kingdom and Disneyland experience. You can't get anywhere in these parks without experiencing Main Street USA. And it's, one of the most photographed places on Instagram and on Facebook. It pops up in those statistics when you talk about most photographed places in the United States. I feel like we have to talk about it.
Yeah, and one thing I actually read was that Main Street USA in Disneyland is in the Orange County Thomas Guide as an actual street.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I read that on Wikipedia when we were doing the research for this episode.
That's cool. That's pretty cool.
So, CJ, why don't you kick us off by telling us about your favorite aspect of Main Street for Disneyland and for Magic Kingdom?
Well, for Disneyland, it has to be the atmosphere of Main Street. It feels like a real small town. And, when Walt was designing Disneyland and particularly Main Street, he wanted to capture that small town feel that he grew up with. And I think that they did such a great job with capturing that. You walk underneath the train station and it feels like hustle and bustle of a small town. People, we can talk about this a little bit later, but I feel like in Magic Kingdom, people are just hustling towards the castle, right? That's their goal. And in Disneyland, I feel like people take their time and they sit on the bench a little bit, and there's people getting on the Main Street vehicles to ride them around. And it feels a little bit more peaceful and laid back and relaxing, and it feels like a town. And I enjoy that feeling. And in Magic Kingdom, you're hit with that castle view, and the castle is so big and boom. And that's a jaw-dropping view. And there's nothing that can beat that, in my opinion.
For me, for Disneyland, one of my favorite things to do is getting to Disneyland when it opens and or very early in the morning, maybe not necessarily rope dropped, but very early in the mornings, and just getting on a Main Street vehicle and using that mode of transportation to get to the end of Main Street, to get to the castle, to get to the hub, wherever you're going next. But just kind of taking that time to sit and relax and kind of take in the view from the vehicle. It just is so peaceful to me.
Do you have a favorite vehicle?
I really like the upper story of the omnibus. But I also, they have, I'm not making this up. They have a fire truck that you can go down, right?
They do, yeah.
I like that one too.
That one's my favorite.
And then for Magic Kingdom, I like that there's a lot more photo ops. it feels like there's one like every 30 feet or something. It's like
I would say less
you
than that, like every 10 feet.
you want a photo. Well, I mean, there's gotta be space between, like, for the pose between the next photographer. There's a lot more photo ops, and I mean, I even had one at like the beginning of Main Street where, with our backs to the train station, with the train station in the background, and I thought that was really interesting. And then, like you said, because that castle is so big, like you can be near the beginning of Main Street and get that photo past you and still have like a beautiful castle shot behind you. So I really like that there's a lot more of the like souvenir photo opportunities when you're going down Main Street.
Yeah, I can see that.
So let's move on to talk about the buildings and atmosphere and design of Main Street USA at both Disneyland and Magic Kingdom. So in Disneyland, Main Street is themed to resemble like a 20th century small town around 1910. And I want to say it's originally based off of Marceline, Missouri for Walt Disney's, personal nostalgia purposes. But I think it ended up being like an amalgamation of just like every town
Yeah.
around that time, around the turn of the century. There's a lot of trees and a lot of shade on Main Street in Disneyland. And one very distinct memory that I have is going down Main Street in the mornings and being cold. And just, I had to, once I got into the hub, I could take my jacket off because I was in the sunshine, but just, if that cold feeling on Main Street. Warm hearts, cold bodies.
I didn't actually remember that until you brought that up. But you're right. I remember being cold until you get to the end of until you get to the end by the castle, and then you're like, oh, there's the sun, and you're fine.
I'm cool now. Yeah. Like Magic Kingdom, there's windows that are tributes to important people in Disneyland history. And then I also wanted to point out that, I've been talking a lot about Main Street in the morning when you first get into the park, but Main Street at night is a beautiful experience when everything's lit up. And I just think of like there's the shop with like the red and white lights and they blink around, and it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, Main Street at night is really like spectacular. There's nothing like it, that's for sure. So in Magic Kingdom, on their Main Street, the design of the buildings is very similar. It's like small town feel and everything. But to me, the buildings seem a little taller, and honestly, they might be taller. The scale of the castle is so much larger. They got to make the buildings seem a little bit taller. And like walking down Main Street, they seem kind of cavernous, the buildings too. I mean, next time you're there, I guess you'll see what I mean. It doesn't feel as welcoming, in my opinion. I guess I don't know. It's hard to describe unless you're walking there. But anyways, the windows do also have tributes to famous people in Disney history as well. And there's a little bit of a difference in some of the buildings. There's a barber shop, which Disneyland doesn't have, and it is actually a functioning barber shop with licensed cosmetologists there who can cut your hair. And it's a very good deal on haircuts. So once they reopen, they haven't reopened since the park's closure and everything. Once they reopen, it's a great place to get a haircut. So
Oh,
cool.
I was gonna say I'm getting my haircut next week. Maybe I should have waited until, my trip, but I'm making the right call since, they're not going to be open in 2 weeks.
Yeah. But anyways, it's similar to Disneyland, but it does feel a little bit off to me. But that could be just because I've spent so much time, growing up going to Disneyland.
Yeah, it could just take some getting used to that you haven't gotten used to yet.
Yeah.
So the other thing that these main streets have in common is the train station. And that's just about all we're going to say about the train station right now, because we are saving discussion of the train for future episodes.
Yes. So next we're going to talk about next we're going to talk about Town Square, which is right past the train station once you enter Main Street, and it's kind of the area surrounding the flagpole area and the buildings just in that general vicinity. So Alli, why don't you tell me about Disneyland's Town Square?
Yeah, so the train station is considered part of Town Square. There's also the Opera House. There's the fire station and Walt's apartment above it, which obviously Walt died before Magic Kingdom opened, so there's not one in Magic Kingdom. You also have the Disneyland dedication plaque in Town Square. Like CJ said, it's where the flagpole is, and every afternoon they have the flag retreat ceremony. You can also find City Hall here, and one thing that I think is important to note is there are bathrooms on either side. So when you're walking in, whichever tunnel you go through, on the left or on the right, you can make a right turn, get to bathrooms, or you can make a left turn and get to bathrooms. At Town Square, you can also hop on your Main Street vehicle. And the fun thing about Town Square and Disneyland is there's some cannons there that were actually owned by the French army in the 1800s, but they were never fired in battle. And then another thing that I read on Wikipedia is the gas lamps on Main Street came from St. Louis and were bought for 3 cents per pound.
That is pretty cool.
You think it's cheap until you realize, oh, those things are really heavy.
Yeah, they are really heavy. In Magic Kingdom, we have the train station as well. And what's kind of cool about that is underneath the train station is actually where stroller rental is. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. There's the Town Square Theater off to the right side, which is where the Opera House is in Disneyland. And there's a character meet and greet there. That's where you meet Mickey and Tinkerbell, although Tinkerbell is not currently meeting. And there's a little shop in there. There's Tony's Town Square Restaurant. There's the Chapeau Shop. There's the Main Street Confectionery. On the left side, we have the Harmony Barber Shop, the Fire Station, City Hall, and Chamber of Commerce. We also have a flagpole and a flag retreat ceremony. It takes place, close to sunset every afternoon. There is the dedication plaque for Magic Kingdom. There is a Roy and Minnie statue, which they sit on a little bench, and they kind of move around depending on the seasonal decor that might get in the way. And there is also, there's little spots where you can catch a Main Street vehicle. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty similar, just some minor differences here and there.
Yeah, like a statue that moves.
Yeah, I mean, it's generally in the same area, but, they might have to move it depending on, like, if the Christmas tree is there or something.
Yeah, that's something that I didn't know about, is that, well, one, I didn't fully recognize that statue was there. I haven't been to Magic Kingdom all that much. And second of all, I think of a statue as being a very permanent, fixed in place thing. So hearing that they move it to accommodate perhaps the Christmas tree, that kind of blows my mind.
Yeah. And it's low to the ground. It's not on a pedestal like Walt and Mickey is. It's on a bench. You can like sit next to them.
I bet that makes for a really cute photo op.
It does.
So moving on, we're going to talk about some of the shopping that you can get on Main Street. At Disneyland, there's 20th Century Music, Candy Palace and Candy Kitchen, China Closet, Crystal Arts, Disney Clothiers, Disney Showcase, Disneyana, The Emporium, the Mad Hatter, the Main Street Magic Shop, New Century Jewelry, Plaza Point Christmas Shop, and the Silhouette Studio. Yeah. And I'm sorry, you didn't list the Fortuosity Shop on here.
Oh, I didn't?
No, the Fortuosity Shop is so cool.
I'm sorry. That might have been, you know what? I was going off the Disneyland app, so blame the Disneyland IT developers.
Shame.
Okay. In Magic Kingdom, there's box office gifts, Crystal Arts, Curtain Call, Collectibles, Disney Clothiers, Emporium, Main Street Cinema, which interestingly is a shop at Magic Kingdom, but not at Disneyland. Main Street Confectionery, which recently underwent a pretty big transformation. The newsstand, Uptown Jewelers, I can't talk today, and the Emporium as well. The Emporium at Magic Kingdom is pretty similar to the Emporium at Disneyland, but in Disneyland, if you look up in the Emporium, do you remember all those like quasi-animatronic figures?
Yeah, there's the kid getting a haircut is the one that I distinctly remember.
Yeah, and Magic Kingdom doesn't have that.
But they do both have the window scenes out from the outside.
Yeah.
So scenes depicting classic moments in Disney movies.
Yeah. And it's really cool to watch. Yeah. I think the inside of the Emporium in Disneyland is a little bit better. It feels more, I don't know, I think it's better done. Magic Kingdom feels hectic.
The scenes in the Disneyland Emporium really help give it the feeling of what the shop's original intent was in 1910 Marceline, Missouri.
Yeah, I can see that being the case for sure. Magic Kingdom just feels like one long continuous shop. And at Disneyland, it still feels divided into miniature shops, you know?
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's on the left. They're both on the left side of Main Street. And then on the right side is where you get, like, at least in Magic Kingdom, you get the different, like the candy shop, the jewelry shop, the this shop, that shop. You know, there's like different shops, but it's still somewhat one long shop that keeps going for the most part. There's Starbucks in the middle, but for the most part, it's one long shop that keeps going. And they don't have a distinct identity. And how do you feel Disneyland compares to that?
I feel like they do all have a distinct identity. You can tell when you're walking into different shops. You go from like there's the magic shop that is very, very distinct, and there's like the baby and child clothing and toy shop that's also very, very distinct. Those are the
That's
two that are coming
right.
to mind.
The wallpaper in the children's shop has
Hmm.
like the alphabet on it. And then, yeah, the magic shop is pretty distinct too.
And then from the kids store, you go to like the Christmas store, and it's a completely different atmosphere.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think Disneyland does a better job there, personally. But I will say the candy shop on Main Street, it just underwent a transformation in
Which Main
Magic
Street?
Kingdom.
Thank you.
Sorry, in Magic Kingdom. Yeah. It's on the front, like if you're standing in Town Square, it's the first shop on the right. So it's in a totally different location than Disneyland's. And they have this build your own popcorn
Ooh.
experience. Yeah, you pick like a base popcorn and you can add in different mix-ins and stuff and different toppings. So that is really cool. And I hope they bring that to Disneyland because that's just like such a unique thing. And you can do like all these different flavor combinations and stuff.
So do they offer like guidance and suggestions for you might like these things together?
I think they do. I think they had like, get this, like, get the this name popcorn and it'll tell you what's in there. I personally haven't tried it yet. I don't hang out in Magic Kingdom too often, but it's on my list. Like, I want to go and get a certain kind of popcorn. I really want to try it out.
Well, maybe my friend and I will go in a couple of weeks and get some fancy popcorn.
Some fancy popcorn. Yeah, yeah. I
So
think.
speaking of popcorn, shall we move on to restaurants?
Oh yeah, we should.
Since we're talking about things to eat, I hope you have a rumbly in your tumbly.
I
So
always
there's
do.
actually the same number of restaurants in Disneyland and Magic Kingdom main streets. So at Disneyland, you have Carnation Cafe, the Gibson Girl. The ice cream is so good.
Yes.
You have the Jolly Holiday Bakery, the Little Red Wagon Cafe, which we counted, even though it's technically on wheels, but we counted because you can mobile order from there, which you can't do at the churro carts. Market House, which is just the Disney brand name of Starbucks, and the Plaza Inn.
Yeah, and in Magic Kingdom, you have Tony's Town Square, which is an Italian restaurant. I have never eaten there. Casey's Corner, which is like a hot dog quick service place. I have also never eaten there.
I don't like
Pla-
hot dogs, so I made a face.
yeah, Plaza Restaurant, Crystal Palace, Main Street Bakery, which is Starbucks, and Plaza Ice Cream Parlor.
So it's pretty equivalent.
Yeah, I mean it's similar similar restaurants kind of.
I think the one thing that stands out as different is the Italian restaurant in Magic Kingdom. There's not an Italian place that I listed at Disneyland.
No, and the other thing that is different is Crystal Palace is buffet. Yeah. So I feel like Plaza Restaurant and Plaza Inn are similar. I mean, the name is so similar. The food is very different though. Well, I shouldn't say the food is different. The experience is different. Plaza Restaurant is table service
Hmm. And
and
Plaza Inn is I
quick service, I think is what it
well,
counts as.
yeah, I
Only,
was
but
thinking
it's
like
so
it's not counter service because that's, you go up to the counter and order and then they bring it to you. But like basically what you do is you go up and you say, I want the fried chicken, and yes, you want the fried chicken.
yes.
Like you only want the fried chicken. The fried chicken is so good. And they put up the fried chicken and they put the sides and they hand you your plate and you say, here you go, and you walk over to the cash register.
Yeah, it's like nicer than quick service because you're not being served on paper plates. You're being
Yeah.
served on like actual dishware. And I feel like I don't know. I don't remember if Walt Disney World really has quick service that's that fancy. I don't think Magic Kingdom does. I feel
I
like
wouldn't
all
know.
I think I'm like racking my brain here. I feel like most of the quick service in Magic Kingdom is served on disposable dishware. I don't know. I feel like Plaza Inn is kind of between quick service and table service.
Yeah.
There's no waiter and waitress, at least for lunch and dinner. And I probably should have double checked this, but before COVID closed everything down, they were doing that character breakfast,
Mm-hmm.
which was really cool. And that was like, I think it was buffet.
I can't be sure. But
Yeah,
couldn't you have breakfast? Like, wasn't Mary Poppins one of the characters?
I don't know, but I think it was Minnie and Friends, so Mary Poppins
Okay.
probably came out. I mean,
And it might have been more Mary Poppins before Jolly Holiday Bakery opened,
yeah,
and they shifted Mary Poppins to the other side of the street.
yeah, yeah. And then Gibson Girl and Plaza Ice Cream Parlor are basically the same thing, right? It's ice cream, it's sundaes.
It's delicious.
Yeah. Carnation Cafe is pretty unique though.
Yeah, I mean, it's got the outdoor seating. I think it has Mickey waffles too, which you should
For
definitely get the
breakfast.
Mickey waffles for breakfast. Yeah.
Yeah, and Chef Oscar retired in the last few years, but
Aw,
yeah, but he was like a
he earned
staple
it.
from, yeah, he did. He was a staple at Disneyland for, I think, since the 1950s. Like he's
Yeah.
been around for a really long time. So read up on Chef Oscar if you haven't. And you and I met him at least on one or two occasions. He would just wander around and say hi to people.
Yeah, I want to say he made a point to visit every table.
Yeah, when he was working there for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Well, good for
And
him. Best wishes in his retirement.
yes, and
We
Little
love you,
Red
Chef
Wagon.
Oscar.
I think we need to talk about Little Red Wagon and the corn dogs.
I don't, I mean, I agree with you, but I haven't been there in such a long time because I don't like hot dogs.
What?
In most iterations, I will occasionally make an exception to eat a corn dog, but I
Okay,
do
okay, okay,
not like
okay.
hot dogs.
Can we acknowledge how iconic the Disneyland corn dogs are?
Acknowledgement, yes.
Okay, for our listeners who don't know what the Little Red Wagon is, that is like the only place in Disneyland where you should go get a corn dog. The only place. If you are in downtown Disney and you see the carts that are selling corn dogs, no, that is not the same as the corn dogs in the park. And if you see corn dogs in the parks that are not from the Little Red Wagon, you don't want a corn dog. You want them only from the Little Red Wagon. They are hand dipped and they are like the largest corn dogs I have ever seen in my life. You need to go get a corn dog from the Little Red Wagon.
Maybe share it with somebody if you're okay with that.
They're like crispy on the outside but not burnt, and they're fluffy on the inside, and they're so huge and they're so good.
I feel like I appreciate the batter that they are dipped in a lot more than I appreciate what
The
is
hot
dipped in the
dog
batter.
within.
Yeah. It's a really good corn dog batter. I reserve judgment on the hot dogs themselves because I don't like hot dogs.
Fine. Fine. They're just so good. Listen, I've heard things about like the corn dog nuggets at Casey's Corner. You're giving a look.
I don't know. Corn dog nuggets isn't what I expected you to say.
Okay, Walt Disney World people, they keep talking about these corn dog nuggets. And I remember one summer they brought them to one of the quick service restaurants at the hotels as like the hot dog of the month. They brought the corn dog nuggets. And I thought, I'm going to try these corn dog nuggets. And they weren't bad, but they are nothing in comparison to the Little Red Wagon corn dogs. That's all I'm saying.
Well, okay, maybe you need to get the corn dog nuggets from their place of origin rather than a different restaurant, and maybe you'll have a different opinion then.
Okay, that's fair. I will contend that I need to try them from Casey's Corner. Point taken.
You
Fair
can
enough.
get a plate and share it with your son. I'm sure he'll love them no matter what.
Probably true. Okay, let's move on to attractions.
Yes, attractions. You'll find that there's a lot more at Disneyland than there are at Magic Kingdom.
Yes.
Disneyland, you have the Main Street vehicles, you have the train, you have the Main Street Cinema, and you have great moments with Mr. Lincoln and all the affiliated museum type area and the little Disneyland 50th anniversary video that's, I believe, is still playing.
Yes,
How many years after the 50th?
That was from 2005.
So 17 years later? Hey,
It's
you know
still
what?
good.
The hosts are timeless. Steve Martin, Donald Duck. I mean,
It's
say
good.
no more.
Yes, yes. At Magic Kingdom, you've got the Main Street vehicles, which don't even run most of the time. I mean, I don't think I've really ever seen them running for guest use. And you have the train, which has also been closed for a very long time to accommodate the Tron construction. So
So
right
you
now,
got nothing.
yeah, I mean, it's really hit or miss on the vehicles, and the train is just like a big question mark as to when that will reopen.
So on the Main Street vehicles at Magic Kingdom, does that include the horse carriage?
I haven't ever even seen guests on that, to be honest. I've only ever seen the Dapper Dans like singing along on that, and I've seen other Main Street performers singing on that. I've never seen guests on that.
Well, that's a shame because that's I mean that's one of the Main Street vehicles that I didn't mention, but I do enjoy it if you can get a seat. I'm
Yeah.
just also allergic to horses, so I try to stay away from them. But it
Yeah.
is a fun vehicle to ride down.
Yeah, I'm honestly confused about the Main Street vehicle situation. I need to go check it out a little bit more. I just don't really see it in use that often. I did want to mention about the Main Street Cinema on Main Street at Magic Kingdom. From what I understand, it used to be used as a cinema like it is in Disneyland, like showing actual like cartoon shorts, and then they changed it into a shop, and it's never been used as a cinema ever again.
Gotta make that money somehow.
Well, they said they can't do any of their projects that they wanted to do because they don't have enough cash flow.
So buy
So
your Disney t-shirts, buy your pins, buy your keychains, buy your
I
ice
just
cream, buy your corn dog nuggets, and fund Tron.
I just have so many questions. But anyways, right now the Main Street Cinema, the merchandise that they have in there is part of the vintage collection for the 50th anniversary. So they have a really great display in there that's like very 70s retro themed. So it is a pretty cool shop to go through. That's one of my favorites. All right, want to talk about characters?
Yeah, let's move on to characters. You can meet characters in various locations on Main Street USA, or at least you could in the before times. You would be able to find them at Disneyland, at the train station. I know I've seen Cruella de Vil at the fire station, which, if you add up the dots, what's the fire engine dog? It's a Dalmatian. Of course, Cruella is going to be there. You could also at one point meet
Add up the
Goofy there.
dots.
Oh gosh, add up the dots on the Dalmatian fur. Um,
Wow.
yeah, that was not on purpose. Apologies to all dog lovers out there. Um, I was watching a video walkthrough from like 2014 of Main Street at Disneyland, and I saw Minnie and Mickey hanging out in front of the Opera House, doing their pictures and such. You can see Bert and Mary Poppins near the Jolly Holiday. And since it's COVID times, they hang out, not necessarily like Mary and Bert specifically, but like all the characters will hang out in the fenced off grassy areas at the end of Main Street near the castle.
Yeah, at Magic Kingdom, there just are not that many characters like hanging around like you see at Disneyland. There's a dedicated meet and greet for Mickey and Tinkerbell in the town square theater, which is on the right side of Main Street at the entrance. Right now, Tinkerbell hasn't come back from like the COVID reopening. It's just Mickey in there, and there's never a wait. So go see Mickey right now. And in COVID times, they've been hanging out on top of the train station right when you enter the park and you go under the train station, just turn around and look up, and you'll usually see some characters up there. But yeah, I feel like, I used to take my son there to Disneyland a lot before we moved and before the parks closed. And I feel like almost every time we walk down Main Street, oh, there's so and so, let's wave hi. Oh, there's this character, let's wave hi. I don't get that same feeling at Magic Kingdom. I just don't.
Yeah, you can see the Fab Five a lot in Town Square.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And even if we didn't, like by the time we got to the end, I feel like we'd see like Bert and Mary Poppins wandering around or somebody like coming out from a door
Mhm.
somewhere, right? Yeah. It's just weird at Magic Kingdom. I'm like, where are all the characters?
They're in their houses.
They don't have houses at Magic Kingdom.
Right, they're all in their houses at Disneyland.
Yeah, I guess so. Let's talk about the castle view because that's another big aspect of the Main Street experience. You walk down to the end of Main Street and there's the castle.
Yeah, so watching this walkthrough of Main Street at Disneyland in 2014, the words I said to CJ this morning were, The castle looks so dinky. Like, maybe it was just this video. I don't know, but it did not fulfill my memory expectations. You know, what I thought I remembered about it at Disneyland. It looks so small. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful view, but you really have to get to the end of Main Street and to the hub and to the partner statue before you get that really good, beautiful view where you go, there's the castle.
Yeah, yeah. And at Magic Kingdom, you can't miss it. It's huge. The castle is massive. Once you
Mhm.
turn the corner, it's like, boom, there it is. And you can see it from outside the park too. Whereas at Disneyland, I don't think you can see it from, you can't see it from outside the park. The train station completely obscures it. And it kind of reminds me of a postcard view. You know, there's a couple places that I've been where it's so large and unbelievable. It feels like you're looking at a postcard. Like the Golden Gate Bridge kind of comes to mind, you know,
Mhm.
and Cinderella Castle at Magic Kingdom is another one of those places. There's no trees right in front of the castle to obscure the view, whereas at Disneyland, I feel like from certain angles, there's trees there that kind of obscure the view, you know?
Yeah, there's definitely trees in the hub.
Yeah, and I think that might mess with the scale of the castle a little bit and maybe make it look dinky, as you're saying.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I feel like it gives it life.
Mhm.
Whereas I feel like if you look at the castle, if you look at Cinderella Castle, it looks a little flat if you're just looking at
Yeah.
it.
What self-respecting royal wouldn't have trees in front of their castle? Come on, Cinderella.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at any European castle, they're surrounded by lush gardens, and so it's kind of weird to not have any greenery like immediately surrounding the
Mhm.
castle. So, kind of moving on to like what the castle surrounding area looks like, we had to talk about the hub too.
Yeah. So I find the Disneyland hub to be pretty dense. Like most of the rest of Disneyland, they pack a lot in a little bit of space. So the partner statue is there at the hub, obviously. It's a statue. We call it the statue of Walt and Mickey. You can get the photo pass in front of the statue, so you can have the statue behind you and the castle behind that. There's also a photo pass past that behind the statue where you can get the picture of just the castle behind you. Surrounding the partner statue, they've got smaller statues of like recognizable Disney characters, like the White Rabbit checking the time and going, "Oh no, I'm late. My fast pass was good 10 minutes ago." Um, you got Donald, just characters like that. And Halloween time, they put pumpkins over them, and I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. And the other thing that I noted is that when it's time for fireworks, you can be close to the castle and still get a really good view of the fireworks. Just you have to just be mindful of the trees because they might obscure part of the show.
Yeah, I've been in what I thought was a really good spot, and then the tree blocked my view. And I was like,
Yeah,
dang
yeah,
it.
that's why nobody else was here.
Yeah, yeah, and of course the cast members don't want to like broadcast that because then they'll cause a people stampede, right, to move out
Nobody
of the
wants
way.
that.
No, no. So the hub area at Magic Kingdom is quite different. It's very large, and it is, you know, that circular area, but it kind of radiates out into a larger circle before it spokes out. You know, it's the hub and spoke pattern that we see, but it's a much larger circle than at Disneyland. And there's areas of grass where people just sit down. Like hub grass is a thing at Magic Kingdom. And people sit down, they'll pack a lunch and they'll just like sit on the grass or they'll like let their kid run around or take a little nap or whatever. It's definitely a thing. And they sell like dessert party packages where like you'll have access to that area to view the fireworks from. The statue of Walt and Mickey are also there right in the middle of the hub, but instead of those like character statues that you were talking about being right there in the middle, they're kind of in that outer ring of the hub. And in that outer ring, they've got these fountains as well. So it's much further spread out, and there's a lot more PhotoPass photographers out there because there's so many different angles to take pictures from. I mean, there's just a lot more opportunities to take pictures in general, and the castle's so much larger. And It's just way more spread out, basically.
And there are no trees that are gonna be, you
Yeah.
get a picture and it's you and then a tree and then the top of the castle. No, that's not gonna happen at Magic Kingdom because there's no tree. It's just gonna be you and the castle, just from a slightly
Right.
different angle.
Right. It seems like everything they've done there aesthetically is to emphasize the grandness of the castle,
Hmm.
essentially. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just it takes away from that like cozy quaintness feeling that I get from Main Street in Disneyland.
And then one thing I wanted to note for Magic Kingdom for fireworks, you don't want to be close to the castle. I made that mistake. I thought I had the best spot for fireworks. I did not. I did not realize how tall that castle was, and it blocked like half of my view of the fireworks show.
And I don't even like being on Main Street at all for the fireworks. There's way too many people.
Not in front of the castle, there isn't.
It's just so crowded. I don't know. I just prefer being like in Frontierland or in Fantasyland. It's better in my opinion. I'm like crowd avoidance 101 over here. Get
Yeah.
away from all the people. So we're kind of going to go into like miscellaneous specifics at this point. We've talked about broad things like town square and building and architectural views and stuff like that. So we're going to talk about specific things. So we're going to start with the Disney Gallery. So Allie,
Yeah,
what is the Disney Gallery?
it's an art gallery.
Yeah.
You can also buy like any of the artworks there if you've got a spare couple thousand laying around. So in Disneyland, it's attached to Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln in the Opera House. There's a gift shop up front where you can, there's small trinkets like your ornaments and your pins, or, the giant piece of art that's in a literal bank vault.
Yeah. Yeah. The building that the Opera House is in is attached to the Bank of Main Street. Like it's an actual bank. And for a while, it was a bank on Main
Mhm.
Street. So they do have the bank vault still there. And that's where they keep like the
The
original,
expensive art.
like sometimes into the 5 digits artwork.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to go in there and see what's in the vault and how long it's been sitting there until they finally rotate it out because somebody bought it.
Yeah. And there's affordable artwork too. You can get like sketches and stuff that are pre-done. And
Yeah.
it's not artwork for the elite only. It's artwork for anybody.
Yeah. And I always like wandering through the shop. There's always something new to see.
Yeah. It's beautiful in there. There's always something interesting to look at. And there are computers where you can like say, "Oh, you know what? I don't see any Little Mermaid art, but Little Mermaid is my jam and I really want to bring home a Little Mermaid piece." So you can like do a search on their computer for the Little Mermaid art and do some shopping from that.
Yeah, yeah. And it always seems like they, like during the holidays too, they try to bring out like Halloween specific artwork or
Hmm.
Christmas specific artwork, which is, it's nice. People like to decorate their houses with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, at Magic Kingdom, there's nothing really specific like a gallery. There's certainly places that sell artwork, but there's nothing that's like the Disney Gallery. And the shop that comes to mind is outside of Haunted Mansion. There's a shop called Memento Mori, which is specifically Haunted Mansion stuff. And I know they sell Haunted Mansion artwork there. So you'll find artwork scattered here and there in different shops, but it's not like there's one shop where you can say, oh, this is where all the artwork is. So, as someone who likes to buy Disney artwork and likes to look at Disney artwork, if I'm looking for something like that, I have to go to like there's a couple good artwork places in Epcot and at Disney Springs, and like that's kind of where you have to go for that.
So moving on, let's talk about the Dapper Dans next. So at Disneyland, the Dapper Dans kind of roam around Main Street and they'll stop and they'll sing, and they're super talented. But yeah, they'll stop on the street, they'll stop on the side of the street. Sometimes they'll go inside a shop if it's raining, which, as we mentioned in a previous episode, doesn't happen all that often at Disneyland.
Mm-mm. No. Yeah, I've seen them kind of all over the place at Disneyland, on Main Street, I should say. All over the place on Main Street.
Yeah.
And then at Magic Kingdom, I've usually just seen them riding around on a vehicle. I haven't really seen them stopped anywhere. That's just been my experience. And then I've seen them, the other place I've seen them is performing the flag retreat ceremony, which they also do at Disneyland.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
And then
they're,
go ahead.
go ahead. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say they are very talented on both coasts. Highly recommend checking them out, especially for the flag retreat ceremony. If you happen to be walking on a main street at that time, definitely check it out.
Yeah, and the flag retreat ceremony is pretty similar on both coasts. They do the, lower the flag, fold it up, and it's at
Presented
the
to
end of
like
the
an
day.
honorary military family of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. And when the parks were closed for COVID, the Disney Parks blog posted about how the security guards and a couple other people were still doing that every day, even though the parks were closed to the public.
I
So,
think that's really special.
yeah, it's definitely a special tradition that Disneyland does. So make sure you check it out,
And
especially if you're a military family.
I didn't realize that they, gave the flag to somebody every day. That's a lot of flags per year.
I think they do. I'm pretty sure they do. I know they pick a family to like participate in the ceremony.
Hmm.
So, yeah. All right. Next, we're going to do like kind of a special category, Main Street around the seasons. And we picked two seasons, Halloween and Christmas. They do decorate, for like 4th of July, and you'll see some Valentine stuff go up. But Halloween and Christmas are kind of like the two big holidays. So
Hmm.
let's talk about Halloween at Disneyland. How do they decorate Main Street?
Halloween at Disneyland, wherever you are in Disneyland, it's Halloween time. But Main Street specifically, they have a 16-foot tall Mickey jack-o'-lantern that they put out every year, and it's iconic. Like, if you've seen the movie Halloween Town, it reminds me of the giant jack-o'-lantern in Halloween Town, only it's Mickey Mouse, and it's the photo pass lines there are always long, because everybody wants their picture with the Mickey jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love at night how it's like flickering, it
Yeah.
like glows like there's a real candle in there.
In addition to that, there are pumpkins everywhere. There are so many pumpkins all down Main Street. The pumpkins in the hub that cover up those bronze statues that I've mentioned before, they are carved to represent each of the different lands of Disneyland, except for Main Street, USA, because you're there. You don't need a pumpkin telling you where it is.
Yes.
There's the fall bunting on the shops at Main Street. The main entrance plaza turnstile covers get decked out for Halloween. And
Yeah, and they put the pumpkins up above the
yeah,
turnstiles.
yep, pumpkins everywhere. And I also want to give a special nod to the Fortuosity shop. Don't go in there at Halloween if you're afraid of birds.
Yeah. It's decked out inside.
Yeah, they do a really great job putting in the crows and the ravens and the grackles and whatever blackbirds they are. They're all over the Fortuosity shop. It's so
Yeah.
cool.
It's kind of creepy. And at Magic Kingdom, they don't have the big Mickey jack-o'-lantern. They don't.
Boo.
Boo. They do pumpkin decor that's framing the castle. So if you were standing at the edge of Town Square where it starts leading into the street area heading towards the castle, like if you're standing at the edge of that taking your picture with the castle in the background, you could have it nicely framed by pumpkins on either side of you. Still looks nice, but you can tell that they're trying not to block the view of the castle,
Hmm.
basically. So I can see where they're going, but to me, it's nothing compared to the giant Mickey pumpkin head. There's something special about a giant Mickey head.
Yeah.
And there's pumpkin decor, pumpkins everywhere, just like in Disneyland, the fall bunting. They do a pretty good job, but the Mickey pumpkin head tops it off for me. I think Disneyland like blows it out of the water for Halloween.
Yeah. Just Disneyland goes all out for Halloween. Maybe I doubt it, but the one thing that doesn't change, one of these days they'll do an It's a Small World Halloween edition.
Oh my gosh.
All they would have to do is slow down the song by 50%, and then
No,
it becomes a
no,
horror
no, no, no.
song.
It's a fall world after all.
Oh. Okay, okay. That's a lot better and a lot less scary than where I was going.
Yeah, I mean, they could sing about like candy and leaves and I don't know, whatever else, apples, whatever else goes with fall that they want to sing about. It's a fall world after all. Anyways, let's talk about Christmas, wintertime. What goes on
Yeah.
in Disneyland?
The 60-foot tall Christmas tree, for one.
Hmm.
It goes where the 16-foot tall Mickey pumpkin previously was. the night before because they pretty much switched from Halloween to Christmas overnight.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. There's garland going across Main Street, Mickey wreaths in the garland. There's Christmas lights everywhere. There is snow on Sleeping Beauty Castle. And if you stick around for the fireworks, and after the fireworks, you get a special surprise when it snows on Main Street.
Yeah, yeah, it's so cool. And just to clarify, the castle has snow during the day and at night, and icicles too. So, yeah, that is very cool. And I love how, Matterhorn is off to the right and there's snow on that, and it kind of complements the snow on the castle,
Yeah, for
It
sure.
looks really cool. So the Christmas tree at Magic Kingdom, it's in the same spot. It does actually block the view of the castle. They're okay with that. It's 65 feet tall. It's only 5 feet taller than Disneyland's, but it's kind of far off the ground. They put all these like presents at the bottom. So like if I'm standing next to it, like my head doesn't really touch the bottom of the tree.
Yeah, and then just to clarify, there are presents under the Disneyland Christmas tree as well, but they're not as tall as at Magic Kingdom. Like literally, like Magic Kingdom, you are standing underneath the Christmas tree and you are one of the presents. Like
Yeah,
it's kind of weird where, Disneyland, you're a full-grown adult and you can still stand like, the presents don't come, to the top of your head.
Yeah, we were looking at pictures and we were like, that looks weird. Anyways, usually they cover the castle in these, they call them castle dream lights. It's basically at night, the castle is like glowing bright white to look like it has snowed. During the day, you can't really tell what's going on. They didn't do it this year because it's all decked out for the 50th anniversary. So this year was just plain old 50th anniversary mode castle. They've got wreaths hanging off the side of the building, kind of arching over, but not strung across Main Street like they do at Disneyland. And the only reason for that is they've got tall parade floats coming through, so they've got to accommodate for that. It does snow on Main Street, but only during the after hours Christmas parties, which are an extra charge event. So that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah. Snow should be free for everyone.
Yeah. And I'm not a fan of that. And quite frankly, I don't know. I don't like their tree as much as Disneyland's. I don't like the fact that the castle doesn't look great until it gets to nighttime, Like I think they could do things a little bit better at Magic Kingdom.
Yeah. So one of the things that you and I were talking about earlier today was the different clientele of Disneyland versus Magic Kingdom. Where Disneyland, you get a lot of locals and, they maybe want to see something different, with all the extra pumpkins and all the extra Halloween decorations and all the extra Christmas, where Magic Kingdom gets a lot more international visitors and people from out of state, where I feel like maybe doing less of the seasonal decorations kind of preserves the Disney experience and doesn't date it to a specific holiday or holiday season. So that's my thoughts on the matter of why, Magic Kingdom doesn't go as hard for the holidays as Disneyland does.
I think that's true. They got to keep the locals at Disneyland happy, and they got to keep them coming back all the time, right? If things were the same year round, it wouldn't be as interesting. So I think you're probably onto something there for sure.
Now, with all of our categories that have been covered, it is time for the final showdown. We've selected a couple of our categories that we talked about to do the little mini final showdown in each of those categories. And then we're going to bring it all together and do the final showdown for Main Street versus Main Street. So starting with shops. CJ, tell me what you think about the shops.
Okay, so for shops, I'm going to give it to Disneyland because I think that each shop kind of has a unique identity. Like the 20th Century Music Shop, for example, you can look in the window and there's musical decor. And at least the last time I was at Disneyland, they still sold music books. They had pins and stuff, but they also sold music books. And like you said, the baby and kid clothing store, like they're decorated like a baby and kids, like there's toys up above and stuff like that. So I think they still maintain some of the unique identities and try to make it more like a neighborhood.
Yeah, I agree with you on this one that Disneyland, each shop having its own personality versus having, I mean, it's still, one long corridor of shops, but each shop having its unique personality really stand out makes Disneyland stand out above the crowd for your Main Street shopping experience for me as well.
Yeah. I will say that I like the barber shop on Main Street at Magic Kingdom. I think that's very, very unique. And you can actually go get a haircut there. That is very cool. That is
Yeah, I
very
like
cool.
that.
And I do like the new popcorn thing. That's really cool too.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, next category.
Next category is restaurants.
Okay. Hang on. I gotta look at this.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me because I've eaten at a lot of the restaurants at Main Street at Disneyland. And I
Mm-hmm.
think I've eaten at one of the restaurants at Main Street at Magic Kingdom. So I cannot judge quality of food.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot judge, I forget what I was going to say. Oh, I cannot judge quality of food. I can't judge based on, one of them has more than the other because they have the same number of restaurants. I can't judge one corn dog is better than the other because I don't like corn dogs. So this is a really tough one for me.
Yeah, I think I know
Okay.
where I'm gonna go. You want me to go?
Yeah, you go.
I'm actually going to give it to Magic Kingdom because I think they have a greater variety of restaurants.
Hmm.
Like Tony's Town Square is Italian, Plaza Restaurant is like soup, salads, and sandwiches kind of place. Crystal Palace is buffet, and then you've got Starbucks, an ice cream place, and a hot dog place. It's a good variety. However, I will say I think the food is better at Disneyland.
So Magic Kingdom for variety, Disneyland for quality.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay.
But I think because they've got to feed like the masses of people, Magic Kingdom wins. So quality may not matter as much as like quantity, if that makes sense.
I still think quality matters.
Yes, but I think quantity probably matters more. Quantity and diversity of food choices matters more.
Okay.
Slightly more than quality.
To you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other people may disagree, and
I'm
that's
not
fine.
saying the quality is bad. I'm just saying
Yeah.
the quality is better at Disneyland.
Yeah. Understood. Oh, again, this is really hard for me because, like I said, I haven't eaten at but one of these places at Magic Kingdom, and I'm not familiar with Magic Kingdom. But I do think I am actually going to have to agree with CJ, and I promise I came up with this decision before the words left CJ's mouth. But
Oh.
just because they do have the variety, Disneyland, it's, more American food, where, Magic Kingdom, at least they've got, a different type of cuisine.
That's true. They've got that Italian thrown in there.
Yeah. That said, I love all of the food at at Main Street at Disneyland, so it's all
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I trust reports that the corn dogs are delicious.
You trust the reporters on scene.
Yes.
Attractions,
Clear winner for me. Disneyland just has more.
100%. Hands
Yeah.
down. Disneyland, easy peasy. And if you haven't seen Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, I mean, you're missing out on one of
Yeah.
the finer attractions. And it's a historical attraction. It was part of the World's Fair in
Yeah.
1964. You need to
And
go see
Walt
it.
worked on it too.
Yeah, and it
And
was,
go ahead.
go ahead. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say it was a precursor to the Hall of Presidents, which is at Magic Kingdom. So you need
Yeah.
to go see it.
And the Abraham Lincoln animatronic was revolutionary for it, being able to sit and stand and just
Yes.
doing that motion. It was a huge revolution in audio animatronics.
Yeah, yeah, definitely worth going to see. Okay, characters is the next category.
Yeah,
Alli.
I think we'll have to give it to Disneyland again based on how many characters you can see, at least in the before times, haven't been since the COVID times. But in the before times, just the variety and number of characters that you could see and the frequency with which you could see them.
Yeah, I will acknowledge that Magic Kingdom does have that like guarantee that you can see characters at, a set meet and greet with set hours.
Mm-hmm.
However, chances are you're going to see characters at Disneyland on Main Street just by walking around there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give it to Disneyland as well.
Next up, we have the castle view, and I am going to give this to Magic Kingdom based on the 2 YouTube videos that I watched today of the, going down Main Street at each park, and just you cannot miss it at Magic Kingdom. It's there, it's big, it's loud, it's proud. And Disneyland, you go, oh, there it is, off in the distance. Looks awfully small. So I give it to Magic Kingdom because you can't miss it. Also, Cinderella is my jam. I love Cinderella. She's my princess. Though that did not sway my decision in any way, shape, or form. The Sleeping Beauty castle is still beautiful.
I am going to split with you on this one.
Okay.
Disneyland wins. And I know the Walt Disney World people are going to hate me for this. And there are so many Walt Disney World people who visit Disneyland for the first time. They're like, the castle at Disneyland sucks.
It does not suck. You're wrong.
Okay, here is why. I have very specific reasons why. We are on Main Street, USA, small town America, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are there castles on Main Street, USA in small town America?
I know of precisely one castle in America, and it is not the route leading up to it resembles nothing like Main Street, USA.
No, it's Hearst Castle that you're referring to, correct?
Yeah,
no. That's in Central California on the coast. That is not small town USA. Anyways, no, Main Street, USA in the early 1900s does not have a castle on the end. So me not seeing the castle at the end of Main Street, that's fine. That's fine by me, first of all. Second of all, the fact that there are like the beautiful trees like outlining or flanking the castle view, I think that makes it prettier. It feels more like comfortable and cozy. And those trees that are right there in front of the hub, like around the hub, framing the castle, when they are blooming pink, it is so gorgeous. That's one of my favorite views. And if you're at Disneyland at that right time of year, that like month or two where they're pink, you picked the right time of year to come. It is so, so pretty. So I don't have a problem with not being able to see a ginormous castle at the end of small town USA because that's just not realistic.
Yeah. So I understand your perspective, and I think your points make a lot of sense, even though I disagree with you. But it shows part of who you are as a historian.
I know. And then the other part of me is like, well, I just completely suspend reality when I enter Disneyland anyway. So like this whole argument makes no sense to begin with. Anyways, like that's my whole point anyways, I guess.
Last category we have is the hub area. CJ, you first.
I can't stand how flat the hub area is at Magic Kingdom. I really can't. It looks like if you removed the partner statue, if you remove the castle, it looks like a corporate park.
Ooh. Ouch. You're right, but ouch.
I'm sorry. It's hideous. I hate it. Goodbye. No, Disneyland wins.
I mean,
it's so much more charming.
Honestly, you could even leave the partner statue and just take out the castle and it's still a corporate park.
Yeah, like it could be any company CEO standing there.
Yeah, you're right.
That lacks character.
Which is ironic because Disneyland is full of characters.
It's missing something. It feels stale to me. It's so expansive. It just feels like the purpose of it is to accommodate a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole point is to just hold people. I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's giving you a warm hug like Disneyland does.
Are you Olaf? Do you like warm hugs?
When they're from Disneyland.
Okay, that's fair.
It's so wide. I don't know. I just don't like it.
I also come down on the Disneyland side on this one just because of the trees. You don't know what you've got until it's gone.
Yes.
And the trees at Disneyland, like, sure, they're annoying when they're right in front of you when you're watching the fireworks, but they're beautiful and they belong there. And Magic Kingdom is devoid of trees in this area, and it's weird and empty.
Yeah, it was really weird when we were there the week the park reopened in July 2020, and there was legit nobody there in the middle of the day. It was very apparent how big and empty that space is. Very apparent. It was very bizarre.
Yeah, when I did breakfast at Cinderella's Royal Table, and our reservations were for like 7:30 in the morning, and walking up there was big and empty. The only people in the park were the people who also had reservations that early, and so I understand that feel.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've walked around Disneyland a couple times as a cast member before and after the park opens and closed for the day, and it doesn't feel like that when there's nobody there. It just doesn't. It still feels like a warm hug. Like it feels small and cozy still. Big is not always like better when it comes to theme parks.
Yeah.
Not for Disney at least. I think it's time for the final showdown.
The final showdown. Based on, our opinions on all of these, it looks like we both agree that Disneyland has the superior Main Street.
I would agree with that. I think there are elements of Magic Kingdom that are better.
Mm-hmm.
A few elements. I think the variety of restaurants is better. I think you're going to appease a wider audience with the restaurants. I think you pointed out earlier there's a lot of photo pass opportunities. They've got the super zoom photo at the end of Main Street. If you haven't done that, it's on the right side at the end of Main Street. It like zooms in and zooms out. It's really cool. It's on like the right side hub grass. I think, we just talked about the large open space and how I don't like that feeling when you're talking about how it relates to what Main Street is. But sometimes, I don't like when it's crowded. I don't like being in crowds. So sometimes that space is a blessing just to get away from other people, especially on those crowded days. You can kind of find a quiet corner to escape for a little bit. I think there are some strengths there.
Yeah. And, we both grew up going to Disneyland. We were pass holders and / a cast member for 20 plus years. We try not to let, our Disneyland bias show, but I do agree that Magic Kingdom Main Street has its merits. You pointed a lot of them out just now. But Disneyland, I feel, is superior in more ways than Magic Kingdom is superior for Main Street USA.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's hard about this is Walt built Disneyland.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the blueprint for the other parks. And I think Main Street, especially in Disneyland, is one of the least changed parts of the park.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, I don't know, when it's not so changed like that and having to compare it to another place that's not changed so much, it's almost like the perfect part of the park.
Yeah. And I mean, I very briefly mentioned Walt's apartment on Main Street in Disneyland, but like that I think is a big deal, that Walt loved Main Street so much that he literally lived there part-time.
Yeah.
And you don't have that little touch of magic at Magic Kingdom, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's actually my favorite land in Disneyland for one of those reasons. Like it just has so much history and so much of his personal little touches there.
Mm-hmm.
People ask me sometimes, what's your favorite land? It's always Main Street. Like that's my go-to answer. My second favorite land changes constantly. Main Street's always one of mine.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of weird, but I also understand who you are and why you have that opinion. So, I mean, let your weirdness shine, CJ.
Yes. Yes. Well, that was a fun discussion and kind of interesting. Main Street, like we said earlier, you can't get anywhere without walking down Main Street USA. So I think it's an important discussion to have. But next episode, we'll be doing a castle battle because there's a lot to unpack with the castles.
Yeah, and size isn't everything. We know that Magic Kingdom has a larger castle than Disneyland, but we're going to talk about a lot more than that.
Yes. So thank you for joining us for this really interesting discussion about Main Street. So let us know what you guys think. Is Main Street at Walt Disney World better? Main Street at Disneyland better? You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Park2Park Pod with the number 2. Email us with any questions, feedback, future episodes, ideas, and more at Park2Park Pod with the number 2. That's Park2Park Pod at gmail.com. Forgot Gmail. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us.
We'll see you next time.